Good afternoon. This is Vaughan in Nova Scotia at westcoastbellpottery.ca. I'm going to do, as requested by one of the subscribers, some trimming tips for different forms and how you can probably see from I have quite a trimming setup here. I just wanted to go over a few different ways of trimming. Somebody talked about, and I mentioned the giffin grip, which is what I have set up at the moment. But the other way of trimming, which is the way I was taught, 40 years ago or plus, actually 1973, I was taught how to do it. But anyway, I use basically the giffin grip most of the time because it's faster and it has a lot more ways of doing it, basically. But I'll do it the way I was taught, just for beginners, because this giffin grip is expensive to buy and you don't need it. It just helps and makes a lot of trimming a little easier. Anyway, so get rid of the giffin grip. All right, so what do you have when you don't have a giffin grip? Let's put this down a bit so you can see better. Actually, let's turn it around this way. You're not feeling seasick, I hope. Yeah, this little tripod I've here, it's got lots of ways of doing things. So, all right, so there you go. That's give you a better view, but not of me. All right, this yellow thing I bought. It was $30, $40 to buy. And if you're in a small studio, and you're working out of your house, basically, it may be advisable to get one of these just because it keeps your trimmings, from getting all over the floor. It's a bit fiddly, but it will actually stop your trimmings from splashing everywhere. But what I've done, if you can see here, I have a rubber mat. It's one of those floor mats you walk on, basically stapled to my wall. And so all the trimmings that come off here usually go that way, and they actually mostly hit this rubber thing as they're coming around, and this catches them anyway. So this yellow thing, it's sort of, for me, I feel like it gets in my way. But I just thought, if you're in a small studio location where really you don't want to get too much dirt everywhere, then this might be a good thing for you to buy. I got it from, I think it was from Toronto, and I think they have them at Bailey's as well. It just slots underneath your splash pan quite firmly, but you can take it in and out quite easily. Now, who makes it? It's called a clay shield. All right, so I'm not going to use it because I bought it just to try it out, but it works. And it would be very advantageous to you if you have a tiny studio where you don't want to walk your trimmings, crush them into the ground, and then you're breathing the air in. So that would be good. But I just have this rubber thing here that catches the trimmings as they come spinning off. All right, so how can we trim if we don't have a giffin grip? Regular bat. See if I can remember how to put this on, since I don't usually use it. On my trimming wheel, I have these for throwing bats. There you go, that's on. So if you want to stick a piece of pottery back on the wheel to trim, you simply wet the rim, place it down in the center, I'm not even going to try the tapping thing because I'm quicker at doing it this way. Just move it over. And you can see it just gradually moves into center. And once you got it centered, put a little weight backwards and forwards like that. It is now stuck to the wheel head. And so you can trim as you normally would. The water will stick the pot to the wheel head again. You've got to have a little bit of guts to do this because you've got to trust the fact that you did adhere it. And these are pasta bowls that somebody ordered, so I made a spare just in case I wreck it. But so I'm trusting the fact that I put enough pressure down on a wet pottery rim so it isn't going to come spinning off. But this is obviously going to make a lot of people really nervous. Alright, so I've proved that it works. So what do you do if you've got a beginner's kind of courage? You get a piece of clay, lump of clay. If you're really not feeling that courageous about sticking your clay with a bit of water back, or your pot basically, onto the wheel head, you get some lumps of clay, soft clay, so you don't dent your pot. You can actually, if the pot's too dry here, you could crack the rim. So be careful you're pressing downwards and not against the piece. That now makes it even more secure, so you can trim with a bit more courage and confidence that you are not going to release this from the back. Because if you put a lot of pressure on as you're trimming, you might actually release that rim, which is only just being held by some sticky, watery rim, basically. Alright, so that's another way of actually trimming. Now, if you watch Simon Leach's videos, he'll show you how to tap trim. I've always felt like it's no faster to do that than what I just did. So that's why I don't tap trim when I'm doing it this way anyway. Okay, so we have a pasta bowl. Take your clay off. I have 9 of these to trim afterwards. Let's keep that clay soft in case I need it. And then you just take it off by pushing it and it will come off. And so that's one. All right, now I have, let's see what the next way would be. I've got those and I've got these to trim. I have some very awkward pieces to trim, and they have a dented rim. All right, these no longer sit flat on the wheel head, so I can't wet the wheel head. And basically they'll be kind of hard to trim with the giffin grip too. So what do? You know, this is a dilemma. So I can get rid of that. And you could throw a chuck by using soft clay and throwing yourself another cylinder. Let's see if this is on properly. Yep, that's good. That's slot back on. So what I do is I take one of these, and I have a whole bunch of these. Let's show you on the wall quickly. On the wall I have a whole bunch of what we call chucks or collars that you can actually trim pots on. And any one of these would work. I keep some of my pieces like that for trimming, and I also have a little pot here I made, and I use that for trimming onto as well. I wondered where that brush was. Been hiding from me. These things simply sit on the wheel like that, and then without the rim touching the wheel head, that's pretty close to centered already. So now I don't have to worry about resting those on the wheel head and cracking it around here. This is recycled clay, you can tell because look, there's a piece of rock in there. Ugh, I can't get it out, we'll see what happens. But so basically this is how to use a chuck. Now you can fasten that chuck to the wheel head using, these are really dry. You can fasten that chuck to the wheel head just using lumps of clay like I just did with the other pot that was upside down, and then sit your bowl on top of the wheel head on top of the chuck. So this chuck can be used in the other way I just showed you how to trim. Let's see, is that good? Yep. Let's get this one done first. Now I trim at pretty much full speed. Backwards and forwards. My fingers are on the top all the time, holding that piece to the chuck. It's only being held by the weight of my fingers, basically. But the chuck is also bisque clay, not glazed, so it's not shiny and slippery. The glazed ones are a little bit more slippery, actually. So. don't feel that lump. There was a piece of grit in there, but I didn't feel it as I was trimming then, so maybe it's got a lot of grog in this clay anyway. It's a mix. This is a mixture of my clay that I, for recycling that I do actually. Can I find my chattering tool? Oh yeah, there it is. This clay is very dry, so I'm not sure it will do the chattering anyway. I find chattering works a lot better when you've got slightly softer clay. No, it's not starting the chattering. I'd have to sharpen the tool. It's just starting there, but I don't think it's going to do a good enough job because the clay is almost dry. I left these a bit late for trimming. So I can also flute. I need to get this a little better. So you can do fluting. I've shown this in a previous video. It's just a way of getting the glaze to catch a little nicer. I'm a bit worried the bowl will come loose on the chuck, so I'm holding my fingers still downwards. Yeah, see, this is totally, but when clay is this dry, it's actually quite nice to carve because the trimmings and the carvings don't end up staying on the piece. And then just to tighten up those marks at the bottom, I always trim off that little bottom area there. And you can often do that because you might have caught the foot a bit more. All right, so there you go. So that's how to trim using a chuck. And you can make these any size you want. There we go. That's why I have so many here. I've got tall ones, narrow, short ones. And then, like I said, I actually throw pieces that I use for different types of trimming as well. Now, what about the next difficult thing? Let's put that down for a second. How do you trim a teapot? Now, I want to show you this as well. I showed this in another video. This lid will not fall out. This lid will not fall out because I put a little notch on the back of it. And that way, when you're pouring, the lid catches, right? And it won't fall out. All right, let's get the lid aside. Got too many things in my hand. So I have a teapot that if I trim, the handle and the spout are a little taller than the pot itself. So basically it won't sit flat on the wheel, all right? So how do I do this? Well, there's a couple of things I have to do things like this. I've got that one, which I sit inside the lid, and that will now raise it higher. Let's open this up. It raises it up higher than the actual pot. Let's see if those arms are big enough. No, I think I need some bigger arms on this. These just slot in and out. Let's try this one. You just have to figure out which arms will do the job for you when you've got something like this. Those ones will reach, because you want it to be tightened up. All right, so it's actually being held now. Tightening the giffin grip, I showed this on another video too. You hold the bottom disc and rotate the top one. Okay, so then you see whether it's on center. It's very close. So I think it's down just over there. So then I can just pull it slightly, reposition the arms that are tight. No, I think that's still down. So I'm simply I found a level on top, I could do this. That's better. Okay, so once you know you've got it good, then give it an extra tug. And it is easier, I guess, if you had a level just to sit it on top in two different directions. You should be able to figure that out. They may even sell a level that is you don't have to move. Okay, so we've got a pot now that I can trim that is held by the arms, so it's not going to spin off. And I could do this similarly without the giffin grip, just by fastening that chuck with lumps of clay to the wheel head. But the giffin grip just does it faster. This is an order for a teapot. Somebody wanted a very wide, low teapot. So I just made about 14 teapots, maybe more than that. And I still didn't have the one. So when you're setting up a pottery for the first time, if you're actually going to try doing retail, it's tough because you can make and invest a lot of money. Well, at least it's not silver or gold we're investing in, but you're investing a lot of money in your materials and your equipment. And when you start making things, even a simple thing like a coffee mug, people will balance that in their hands and they will try to feel like if it's shouting at them or if it's just mumbling or if it says, I don't want you. But basically, everybody has personal needs with anything they buy, you know, so it's not just what we do that matters. You've got to try and figure out, you know, what the customer wants. And of course, you know, once you get into weight and size and shape, there's so many variations, it's hard. So you just need to have a lot of inventory before you actually start trying to sell pottery. You've got to try and cover all the bases a little bit. And so a lot of times I make things that have two purposes too. Like I have a sugar dish and that reverses and becomes a butter dish and all that. So so you can try and figure different ways out. Okay, so that's good for there. Now the spout and the handle I'm touching as it's going around, so there's not much room to do anything. So, but I am going to try to do just a touch on the bottom here. So I'll give myself a little circle, a little groove, and this clay is a lot softer. Yes, it's vibrating straight away. So this is called chattering, or as I said in another video, juddering. I called it something juddering before I found out what it was really called. Hey, when I first moved to America, I used to say Connecticut. I actually thought I was in the middle of nowhere once driving through Connecticut because there were trees everywhere. I'm from England and we're not used to driving for 20-30 minutes in trees without seeing a house, you know. But anyway, that's even Connecticut. That's not even really Pennsylvania's big time trees. Anyway, there you go. So that is how to trim a teapot. And there's the jaw by the pressure I put on, but it comes right out. So it sticks just by the pressure that you put on it. And my teapot is now trimmed. But, and there's that lid again with the notch. So basically should do it, you know, am I going to trust myself? Oh, okay, it works. Now, the only thing you have to tell the customer is you have to remind them that it doesn't work the other way around. You've got to make sure that notch is near the handle, right there. It's got to be next to the handle. Let's put this one down again. All right, simple things like coffee mugs. I got 2 of these. So I have a giffin grip. No fear, it's being held halfway up. Trim full speed. Don't even have to put my fingers on the top. You don't need to trim much on these because I throw them fairly thin anyway. Alright, that was easy. So we got a tankard trimmed on the bottom. If I don't want to use the giffin grip, I have a bat. I have a coffee mug or a tankard, wet the rim, place it. You can draw circles on this too to actually, so you can center it straight away just with a black marker. And then you have to see where it goes. That's almost perfect straight away. That's why I say with tap centering, it works, but I've never found it that necessary. Now the problem is, no, it needs to be wet again. That's the problem. When you've got big narrow foots like this, foots, must be a hobbit talking. Okay. And notice my fiddling. Now it's stuck and I can trim, but I'm insecure at this point. So you get your lumps of clay. And you stick them around. And that will hold a little better, so I can now trim. I'm still going to keep my finger on the bottom because I like to think when I'm a little insecure when I'm trimming like this. All right, it's done. There's nothing wrong with doing that way. It works. That's how I was taught at high school. And then you just quick click and it will release again. But that took longer than using the giffin grip. So what I'm saying is that that's a giffin grip is expensive, you can do things and get along fine. But if you're in a production setup and you're trying to make a living at it, you need to make things as fast as you can possibly do and still maintain your quality. And the giffin grip, I think, is a really good tool for doing that. So I think that I mentioned in another video about there's a few things that I do that a lot of potters maybe frown upon, and the giffin grip is one of the things I think some potters frown upon. It is a valid point because, you know, if you're a purist and you want to do everything with as little machinery as possible, then this is a tool that maybe, you know, you want to avoid. But I actually feel like, you know, we use a wheel, an electric wheel rather than a kick wheel. And so we're willing to adapt and kind of, you know, we're not quite as back to the earth as maybe we think we are sometimes as potters. But anyway, I just wanted to give that few tips on videos. And somebody said, what about my tools? I have lots of tools. I'll never use my tools in my lifetime, but I've got all sorts of them on the wall back there. You should be able to see these as I'm talking, you know, for all different things. Big tools for large pots. You just have to find a tool that you like to handle, to use. I love this little tiny tool. I've mentioned it before in my videos. And it's a square end and a rounded end. I use that for most of my pieces that are small. I also love this tool. It's a little loop tool. These are Kemper tools. And that one I use a lot as well. That one I used to make a handle the other day, but I don't like making handle. I think it's called a handle tool, actually, handle loop tool, but I don't like it for that. It's a good trimming tool. And then for your, I call it juddering, but here you go. That's a square end tool I use a lot too. Anything else here? Oh, an assortment. I mean, you know, they're all there in all the catalogs. I mean, you'll see. I cannot run my studio without a bunch of collars. So the collars I think are worth buying or making. I mean, you can make them yourself. I mean, I don't know whether they do sell them actually, but you can make them out of soft clay. When you're trimming, you just throw a soft piece of pottery first to use as a collar and then trim onto that, or you can bisque fire them like I did, and just have several different heights and sizes. I've got a whole pile of them just here, all on top of each other, so I'm ready for any kind of form or shape that I come across. But that would be really nice. Just build yourself up some different forms to do trimming on. And before I finish this, I want to show you a quick thing which is on a different video that I'm planning, but I've got 2 trial test pieces out, which I will show you here. And I hope the light is good enough, but okay, this is that little test kiln I mentioned. I just bought it. I'm testing Randy's Red under 6 different firing conditions to see how it works. And this was the one I did. I think I may have just shown you this in a different video. This was a very slow firing, 18 hours, with a very slow cool. And the texture at the top turned out beautiful, and that was the strontium crystal magic with the oatmeal over the top and then Randy's Red on the bottom. But Randy's Red is very disappointing and all that, so that didn't work out good at all. And there you go. And then this one just came out of the kiln this morning, and this is just under standard medium firing under cone fire, and it's hard to see in the light, but there is some red just coming on this. But look at the strontium crystal magic, it ran a lot more with the oatmeal, but you do not have the glorious oatmeal texture that you had in the other piece, but you do have much more of a reddish glow on this one. And that's what I've been looking to try and figure out if we can get that. You can just see it if you look, if the camera's picking it up anyway. It just has a hint of the red showing through. So now I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing. A firing now where I'm going up really fast, 250 degrees an hour, all the way up to 22, 32, and then I'm going to soak 11 minutes, drop it down to 2000, soak for half an hour, drop it down fast to 1750, and no soak, and then 1750 to 1700 I'm going to drop at 50 degrees an hour. So it takes an hour to go through that part, and then going to drop fast after that. So we'll see what that one results in. But it is, when you look at the two together, same clay body, same glazes applied right at the same time. One is really shiny as well, and the other one is more matte, and that's the slower cooled one, and this was the faster cooled one. Natural cooling with the kiln. But you do have a little bit more red, but still, it's not that red that I've been seeing on some people. I think Earth Nation Ceramics shows it really red, and the firing schedule is what's missing. That's what I'm trying to figure out, is what is the firing schedule for this one to get it more red. Okay, that's it for the video. So I'll see what this one comes out. I'll post again in a few days. All right, this is Vaughan at Westcote Bell Pottery saying Happy New Year. All right, take care. Bye.